Welcome, dear listener, to WooEnglish, your journey to learn English begins here, right now, with a wonderful story. Today, we have a very special story waiting just for you. You'll hear about Ludwig van Beethoven, a man whose life was filled with music, passion, struggle, and triumph. From a small child with big dreams to one of the greatest composers the world has ever known. You'll experience moments of joy, sadness, courage, and victory, all while learning English easily, naturally, and beautifully. Are you ready to feel inspired, to grow your skills, and to enjoy English like never before? Then come, join me as we begin our incredible story. Relax, listen, and let the adventure begin. Chapter 1. A Child of Fire and Music. A small room in Bonn, Germany, echoes with the first cries of a newborn baby. His tiny voice, already strong, already defiant. His name, Ludwig van Beethoven. From his very first breath, music fills the air around him, as natural as breathing. His family home hums with melodies and songs. His father, Johann, is a musician, ambitious, passionate, a man with great dreams for his little son. But behind every melody, behind every note of joy, shadows linger, waiting quietly in the corners. Johann Beethoven dreams big. Yes, he imagines a future where his son, Ludwig, will become famous, respected, wealthy, a child who would astonish all of Europe with music that could touch the stars. Yet Johann's dreams are poisoned, darkened by drink, haunted by anger. He carries within him a storm, violent, unpredictable. His heart holds both love and cruelty. Can a little boy carry such heavy dreams? From the earliest days, Johann demands perfection. Long hours at the piano, fingers aching, tears running silently down Ludwig's cheeks. Again, his father commands harshly. Again, and again, until it's perfect. Little Ludwig struggles, tired and frightened, yet something inside him pushes back, a strength, stubborn, powerful. His tiny hands dance over piano keys, faster, stronger, until notes flow like fire from his fingers. Even now, even through the pain, music is his language, his escape, his world. The neighbors hear music pouring from Beethoven's house, day and night. They whisper quietly among themselves, "Can you hear? That little Beethoven boy, only 5 years old. He already plays like an angel." They see the talent, but nobody sees the boy's sadness. Nobody sees his tears. His mother, Maria, gentle and quiet, watches from a distance, her eyes filled with sadness, worry. She tries to soften her husband's anger, tries to protect her son, but her voice is weak, powerless against Johann's fierce storm. Beethoven's childhood becomes a battleground between his father's harsh demands and his mother's quiet love, between pain and music. Can Ludwig survive this fight? Night after night, little Ludwig lies awake, staring at the ceiling, his fingers sore, his heart aching. Yet, even then, Music whispers to him gently. Melodies flow through his mind, notes that chase away fear, chase away loneliness. Music, he thinks quietly. Music will save me. And deep inside his little heart, hope begins to grow. Beethoven, a child born in fire and music, knows deep down his life will be difficult, his journey will be hard, but somehow, already, he knows that music is stronger than pain, stronger than sadness, stronger even than fear. He closes his eyes, softly humming, imagining a melody. One day, the world will listen to him. Yet tonight, as he drifts slowly into sleep, darkness remains, watching, waiting, whispering softly to his heart. Will Ludwig van Beethoven find the strength to rise above the shadows? Only time, only music will tell. Chapter 2. First Notes of Genius. The room was quiet, very quiet. Little Ludwig sat before the piano, his small fingers resting gently on the keys. Breathing softly, eyes closed, he felt the music inside him, waiting, like a bird ready to fly. And then, slowly, his fingers moved. A note rang out, clear, beautiful, perfect. It echoed gently around the room. His heart raced. Another note followed, then another. Suddenly, the melody flowed from him, effortlessly, magically. The world stopped to listen. His father stood behind him, eyes wide with surprise, amazement, and greed. Johann Beethoven saw something special, a gift, a chance for fame, success, wealth. "Play it again!" Johann shouted suddenly. Ludwig jumped, startled by his father's loud voice. "Again, Ludwig! Again! Do you hear me? Play!" The little boy trembled, afraid of making a mistake. His small fingers touched the keys once more, carefully, gently. "Faster!" his father yelled angrily. "Faster! Louder! Better!" Ludwig's heart beat faster, fear rising inside him. But he played again and again, his hands aching, his eyes filling with tears. Behind closed doors, their home became a battlefield. Shouting, crying, endless practice. Johann's dreams grew bigger, darker, heavier. He pushed Ludwig harder and harder. The child's days became filled with music, but also pain. "Please," Ludwig whispered, exhausted. "I'm tired. My fingers hurt." But Johann refused to listen. "Greatness is never easy," he shouted back. "You must play until your fingers bleed." Ludwig felt trapped, afraid. Yet music still called to him. Even through his suffering, music was his friend, his only comfort. The notes whispered gently to him, "Don't give up. Don't lose hope." His talent was powerful, stronger than his fear. He began performing publicly, first in small places around Bonn. People listened, amazed by this little child, his beautiful, powerful music. "Who is he?" they whispered in wonder. "He's only a boy, yet he plays like a master." Ludwig felt proud, yet frightened. His father's eyes watched him carefully, always demanding more. Ludwig wondered quietly, "Can I survive this? Is this the price of greatness?" At night, after everyone slept, he sat alone at the piano. Here, in these quiet moments, The music belonged only to him. His hands played softly, freely, notes that were his alone. He closed his eyes, dreaming of a place far away, where music had no pain, only joy. One evening, Johann came home late, drunk, angry. Ludwig sat quietly at the piano, hoping his father wouldn't notice him. But Johann stopped suddenly, staring fiercely. "Play!" he shouted, stumbling closer. "Play something. Perfect. Now!" Ludwig trembled, frightened by his father's dark eyes. He placed his small hands on the keys, shaking, heart pounding loudly. But this time, something different happened. As Ludwig played, he felt courage rising within him, anger, strength. His music grew louder, more powerful, defiant. He poured all his feelings into every note, sadness, fear, but also hope, courage, dreams. His father stood silently, eyes wide with shock. The boy was fighting back through music. Ludwig's notes became brighter, stronger, refusing to be silenced. When he finally stopped playing, the room was completely silent. Johann said nothing, just walked away quietly into the darkness. Ludwig sat alone, breathing deeply, his fingers tired, his heart full. He had discovered something important, something powerful. Music was his voice, his strength. No one could silence it. Years passed slowly, filled with music, practice, struggle. Ludwig became stronger, his talent growing each day. He performed in bigger places, his name spreading far beyond Bonn. Yet still, shadows followed him, loneliness, pain, fear. But the music protected him. When life became dark, when sadness filled his heart, music was always there, strong and gentle. Ludwig composed his own melodies, writing down notes that sang from his soul. Pure, honest, beautiful. One day, when he was only 11, Ludwig stood nervously before a large audience. Hundreds of eyes stared at him, waiting. He felt scared, small. Could he really do this? His hands touched the keys, shaking slightly. He closed his eyes tightly, remembering everything he had faced. Every tear, every shout, every moment of pain. Slowly, he began to play. Magic filled the hall. The music flowed from him, powerful, beautiful, unforgettable. The audience listened in awe, some with tears in their eyes. Ludwig's fingers moved faster, stronger, each note filled with life, passion, truth. At that moment, something changed forever. Ludwig understood clearly now. Music was not just his talent, it was his destiny, his purpose, his power. As he played the last notes, applause erupted, loud and endless. People stood, cheered, cried out his name, Ludwig van Beethoven, a boy whose music could touch hearts, move souls, change lives. But as Ludwig stood quietly, hearing their cheers, feeling their joy, he wondered sadly, will anyone ever truly understand? Can they see the price I've paid? For now, he smiled gently, bowing his head humbly. Tonight, he had triumphed. Tonight, he was no longer just Johann Beethoven's son. He was Ludwig, the boy whose genius burned brighter than anyone had ever imagined. Yet, deep inside, Ludwig knew the battle was not over. Shadows still waited, silent and patient. Could his music protect him forever? Only time would answer. Only music would tell. Chapter 3. Vienna, city of dreams and shadows. Vienna, a city where dreams are born, and dreams sometimes die. Young Ludwig van Beethoven stands silently at the gates of Vienna. His heart beats fast, his eyes wide with excitement, hope, and a little fear. This city, beautiful and grand, promises him something special, something he's wanted all his life. Freedom. Freedom from his father's shadow. Freedom from pain, from loneliness. A chance to prove he is more than just a talented boy from Bonn. He takes a deep breath, feeling the energy of the city. Vienna is alive with music, laughter, and possibility. But behind its beauty, behind its glittering lights, shadows wait quietly, watching him. "Can I really succeed here?" Ludwig whispers softly to himself. His fingers tremble slightly, his mind racing with thoughts, questions, doubts, but deep inside, he knows he must try. The streets are crowded with people, elegant, confident, rich. Beethoven walks slowly, feeling small among them. Vienna's great palaces, beautiful theaters, and busy cafes surround him. Everywhere, music floats through the air. He hears it, feels it, dreams of joining it. His first days are full of excitement. People talk about him, whispering his name, curious about this young man from Bonn. Beethoven meets great musicians, rich patrons, people who smile, shake his hand, promise help. "You have talent," they tell him, smiling warmly. "Vienna will love you." But soon, Ludwig begins to see. Vienna hides more than dreams. The city is crowded with talented musicians, rivals, competitors who smile politely, yet whisper quietly behind his back. "Who does he think he is?" they say. "Just another dreamer from the countryside. Vienna will break him." Beethoven feels their coldness, their silent rejection. Loneliness begins to creep back into his heart. But Ludwig is stubborn, brave. He won't surrender so easily. Every morning, early, he sits at the piano, practicing endlessly, working tirelessly, determined, driven. His fingers move faster, stronger, playing notes filled with passion, power, defiance. He tells himself quietly, "I will show them. My music will speak louder than their whispers." Yet even Ludwig's strength begins to fade. Days pass, months, without recognition, without success. His money disappears quickly. Hunger, tiredness, fear grow stronger. His small apartment, cold and empty, becomes a place of sadness. Doubts fill his heart. Was this a mistake? Was Vienna only a dream? One night, alone, hungry, Ludwig sits at his piano, exhausted. His fingers touch the keys, but no music comes, only silence, painful silence. He closes his eyes, fighting tears, wondering, should he leave Vienna? Is it time to give up? But suddenly, a quiet knock at the door breaks the silence. Ludwig opens the door slowly. Standing before him, a kind face, an older man, gentle and wise. Joseph Haydn, one of Vienna's greatest composers. Haydn smiles softly, saying quietly, "I heard your music. Your talent is real. But you need guidance. I will teach you, Ludwig." Beethoven's heart pounds. Hope returns, brighter, stronger. From that moment, his life changes. Beethoven studies with Haydn, learning, growing, inspired. His music becomes deeper, richer, filled with powerful emotions. And finally, Vienna begins to notice. People start to talk about Beethoven again, amazed by his passion, his originality. Concert halls slowly fill when he plays. Rich patrons support him, applaud him, finally welcome him. Yet, even now Ludwig struggles. He still feels alone among Vienna's glittering people, still lonely. The city is warm to him, but cold at the same time. He realizes sadly, Vienna loves my music, but does it love me? Years pass, and Beethoven's fame grows. But so do his troubles. His temper, fierce and quick, causes fights, arguments. Friends become enemies. Enemies become rivals. His heart aches, yearning for friendship, understanding, acceptance. But Ludwig's music grows stronger through pain. Every note, every symphony becomes a battle, a victory, an echo of his struggles. One evening, standing quietly in a crowded hall, Beethoven listens carefully to the whispers around him. People praise him openly, smiling, yet he sees clearly. They still don't understand. He feels isolated, different, separate. Vienna gave him fame, but also loneliness. Yet, even now, standing alone among hundreds, Beethoven knows his music is special. His pain, his struggles, make his melodies deeper, richer, unforgettable. As the concert hall grows quiet, Beethoven walks to the piano, breathing deeply. The audience waits. Expectant, silent. He sits down slowly, placing his hands gently on the keys. Then, the music begins. Notes, filled with beauty, sadness, power, rise into the air. Vienna listens, stunned, amazed. Beethoven pours his soul into every note, feeling his loneliness, pain, and his dreams. Tears flow softly down his face as he plays. Tears of sadness, but also strength, determination. He realizes clearly he is not like others, and never will be. His music, born from pain, loneliness, struggle, is what makes him great. As the last notes fade away, the hall erupts in applause, cheers, cries of admiration. Beethoven stands, bowing quietly, humble, proud, and still alone. Walking slowly into the cold Vienna night, Ludwig feels peace, acceptance. Vienna gave him challenges, rivals, loneliness, yet also greatness. His pain created beauty. Vienna. City of dreams. City of shadows. Gave Beethoven everything he needed to become himself. But as he looks at the stars, Beethoven whispers softly, "My journey isn't over yet. Vienna tested me, but I survived. Now, I must face whatever comes next." In his heart, Ludwig knows clearly. His fight, his struggles, his dreams are just beginning. Vienna showed him shadows, yet he discovered his own light. But will it be enough for what comes next? Only music will tell. Chapter 4. The Cruel Silence. It began softly, quietly, like a whisper in the night. At first, Beethoven hardly noticed. just a strange ringing in his ears, a muffled sound, unclear voices. Nothing serious, he thought, nothing to worry about. But slowly, day by day, the whispers grew louder, the sounds more distant, more confusing. One evening, sitting at his piano, Beethoven suddenly stopped. He shook his head, frowning deeply. The notes, they sounded strange, not clear, as if covered by a heavy cloth. He touched the keys again, harder, louder, but still. The sound was weak, faded, dying. Fear began to rise inside him, panic squeezing his heart. "No," he whispered desperately, his voice shaking. "This can't be happening. Not to me." He stood up, quickly, walking nervously around the room. His hands trembled, his heart beat faster. He covered his ears, closing his eyes tightly, trying to escape this new, frightening silence. Music was everything to Beethoven, his whole life, his heart. Without music, what was he? Who would he become? Days passed, slowly, painfully. Each morning, Beethoven woke up hoping the silence was just a bad dream. But every day, the silence grew stronger. People spoke to him, but their words sounded distant, unclear. Beethoven pretended to understand, smiling weakly, nodding. But inside, he felt lost, scared, alone. Doctors shook their heads, quietly, sadly. There was nothing they could do. Deafness was coming, unstoppable. Beethoven refused to accept this cruel fate. He shouted angrily at the doctors, "I am a composer. How can I write music if I cannot hear? How can I live in silence?" They had no answers, no comfort. Loneliness grew around him like a wall. Friends slowly disappeared, confused by his strange moods, sudden anger, deep sadness. Beethoven stopped going outside, hiding in his small apartment, ashamed, frightened of people noticing his secret. One night, in complete despair, he wrote a letter. Tears fell silently onto the paper as he confessed his deepest pain, writing, "Oh, you people who think me unfriendly, angry, or strange, you do not know my secret. Deafness is stealing my music, stealing my life. How can I face this world, alone, in silence?" Beethoven finished writing, carefully folding the letter. He never sent it, but hid it away deep in his drawer. He felt broken, hopeless. Could he continue living without music? But deep inside, something stirred. A quiet voice whispered softly in his heart, "Ludwig, don't give up. Deafness can steal your hearing, but never your music." Beethoven stood slowly, looking towards his piano. The keys seemed to call him, challenge him. Could he write music, even in silence? Was it possible? With trembling hands, he sat down once more at the piano. His fingers gently touched the keys. Slowly, carefully, he began to play. He felt the vibrations through his fingers, in his bones. The notes, silent to his ears, sang clearly, beautifully, deep within his heart. Tears flowed freely down his cheeks. Beethoven understood something powerful, something important. Music was inside him. It did not need ears to be heard. Music lived in his soul. Days turned into months. Beethoven learned new ways, strange ways, to compose. He pressed his ear to the piano, feeling every vibration. He imagined the notes, clearly, perfectly, in his mind. His music began to change. It became deeper, richer, filled with pain, sadness, hope, courage. People noticed something new in Beethoven's compositions, something powerful, unforgettable. But no one knew, no one guessed, the painful secret behind the notes. Each day, Beethoven fought bravely against his cruel silence. He struggled, fell, rose again. Deafness was cruel, yes, but he was stronger. He composed with more passion, more determination, refusing to let silence defeat him. Yet loneliness remained, his faithful, painful companion. Beethoven often stood quietly, watching others speak, laugh, dance, hearing nothing, feeling like a ghost. He smiled softly, sadly, and whispered to himself, "Music is my only friend now, my only voice." But Beethoven would never surrender. His heart, strong and stubborn, refused defeat. Deafness would not silence him. He would fight it, challenge it, defy it. Sitting alone, late at night, Beethoven carefully wrote down the notes he could no longer hear, symphonies, sonatas, music born from silence, music more beautiful, powerful, honest than ever before. As he placed the pen down, exhausted, yet proud, he whispered quietly into the night, "My ears may be silent, but my heart sings louder, stronger than ever before." Yet a question lingered, softly, sadly, deep inside him. How long could Beethoven survive in silence? Only music, his faithful companion, could answer. Chapter 5. Darkness Within. The silence grew deeper, colder, more painful each day. Beethoven stood quietly by the window, staring out at the empty streets of Vienna. Rain fell softly, slowly, like tears from the sky, but Beethoven heard nothing, felt only the heavy silence pressing around him. His world was changing, disappearing, bit by bit. Friends no longer visited, afraid of his angry outbursts, confused by his sadness. Invitations stopped coming. Vienna moved on without him, busy with music, laughter, life. But Beethoven was trapped, alone, in darkness. Days passed slowly, painfully. He tried composing, but the notes felt distant, unclear. He struggled, desperate to find music again, but each day, silence won, stealing another piece of his heart. Anger burned inside him, fierce, uncontrollable. "Why me?" he shouted to the empty room, fists tight, eyes filled with tears. "Why take my music, take everything else, but not this?" His heart was breaking. Music had been his friend, his voice, his reason for living. Without music, Beethoven felt lost, meaningless. One night, exhausted, desperate, Beethoven sat at his desk. A candle flickered weakly, shadows dancing quietly around him. He opened the drawer, pulling out a paper written long ago, a painful letter he had never sent. He read it slowly, feeling every word like a knife. "My deafness, my cruel silence is too much. I have tried to hide it, tried to fight, but how long can I pretend? How long can I suffer alone? Is it time to give up?" His eyes filled again with tears. Beethoven held the letter tightly, feeling himself at the edge of despair, loneliness, darkness. Maybe it was time to surrender. But then, softly, from deep inside his heart, something stirred. A quiet whisper, gentle yet strong. "No," it said quietly. "Not yet. You must fight." Beethoven lifted his head, heart pounding. The voice was small, gentle, but clear. He looked around, confused, yet hopeful. "I must fight," he repeated softly. The words gave him strength. Slowly, carefully. Beethoven stood up. He walked toward the piano, silent, cold, yet waiting patiently. He placed one hand gently on the wood, feeling its smoothness, its strength. Suddenly, memories filled him. Images of his childhood, long nights practicing, fingers aching, tears flowing. Memories of loneliness, struggle, pain, but always music, always hope. His fingers touched the keys gently, carefully. He felt the vibrations, faint, silent yet powerful. Beethoven closed his eyes, breathing deeply. In that silence, he felt something new, something fierce growing within him. Determination. "If I cannot hear music," Beethoven whispered strongly, "I will feel it. I will imagine it. I will live it." He began to compose slowly, bravely, refusing to give up. Notes appeared clearly in his mind, each one brighter, stronger than before. Silence could not stop his heart, could not silence his soul. Days became weeks. Beethoven fought hard, determined, powerful. He composed tirelessly, each melody more passionate, more honest, more beautiful. His anger, sadness, loneliness became notes on the page. Music, born from silence. Stronger because of darkness. Vienna began to notice again. People whispered his name, amazed, moved by his courage, his strength. Beethoven's new music touched their hearts, deeply, powerfully. Yet still, Beethoven remained alone. He watched silently as others talked, laughed, enjoyed his music. They praised him, yet never fully understood. No one saw his struggle clearly. No one knew the darkness, the fierce fight within him. But Beethoven understood clearly now. His deafness, his cruel silence, was both curse and gift. Silence taught him patience, strength, courage. Darkness gave his music passion, honesty, beauty. One evening, standing quietly after a concert, Beethoven watched people's faces, filled with wonder, admiration, tears. He smiled softly, gently, realizing finally his music had touched them deeply. His fight, his pain, had purpose. Walking slowly home, Beethoven breathed deeply. Vienna's streets were quiet, peaceful. The night sky was clear, stars sparkling silently above him. He stopped, looking upward, feeling calm. "I will never surrender," he whispered confidently to the sky. "Silence cannot defeat me. It has tried, but I have won." His heart beat strongly, bravely, proudly. Darkness had tried to break him. Silence had tried to stop him. But Beethoven had risen stronger, fiercer, unstoppable. Music, born from silence, was powerful beyond measure. But Beethoven knew clearly his battle was not finished. Darkness still waited, patient and quiet, testing him. Could he continue fighting? Continue creating? Despite the silence? He took a deep breath, smiling softly, bravely. Yes, he could, and he would. For Beethoven, silence was no longer weakness. It was strength. And now, he was ready for whatever came next. Chapter 6, Symphony of Defiance. Beethoven stood alone in the quiet of his room, the silence around him, heavy, endless. But inside his heart, music burned, brighter, louder than ever before. Deafness had stolen so much. It took away voices, laughter, the simple beauty of rain, birds, whispers of the wind. But it could not steal his music. No, Beethoven whispered fiercely. Never. Slowly, bravely, he walked toward the piano. His fingers touched the keys gently, carefully, lovingly. He could no longer hear the notes, yet somehow, deep inside, he felt them clearly. They danced through his mind, powerful, passionate, defiant. He imagined them perfectly. Each note, each rhythm, clear as ever. And suddenly, the music burst free. He began to compose, feverishly, passionately. Every note he wrote down was a challenge, a battle against silence. Deafness tried to stop him, tried to defeat him, but Beethoven fought back, harder, stronger, determined. His music grew bolder, stronger, more powerful. Symphonies poured from him, each one louder, deeper, more beautiful than before. The Fifth Symphony, filled with energy, defiance, struggle. The Sixth, gentle, peaceful, like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Beethoven's heart, his anger, his hope, his love, filled every measure, every note. Music had become his voice, louder, stronger than words could ever be. People began to notice, to talk, amazed by Beethoven's new, powerful style. They whispered quietly, wondering, questioning. How can a deaf man compose like this? How can someone who hears nothing create music so beautiful, so perfect? Yet Beethoven never answered. He simply kept composing, writing down notes he couldn't hear, but felt deeply, passionately. Vienna watched, amazed. Concert halls filled with people, curious, excited, touched deeply by his music. Audiences felt the power, the beauty, the honesty in every note. They stood, clapped, cheered wildly. But Beethoven himself stood quietly at the side, unable to hear their applause, their cheers. He watched their faces carefully, feeling proud, yet lonely. Do they understand? He asked himself quietly. Do they feel the pain, the struggle behind every note? His heart still carried darkness, loneliness, but he refused to surrender. He wrote more fiercely, more boldly, as if each note was a battle, a victory against fate itself. And then, Beethoven decided something incredible, something impossible. I will write a symphony, he whispered confidently, so powerful, so joyful, that the world will never forget. He worked tirelessly, day after day, night after night, each page filled with notes of hope, freedom, joy, and slowly, the Ninth Symphony, his greatest masterpiece, took shape. It was daring, different. Beethoven wanted singers, voices, words filled with joy and freedom. Friends told him softly, gently, "This is too difficult, too risky. Impossible. But Beethoven smiled defiantly, bravely. "I will do it," he said calmly, "even if I cannot hear it myself. The world must hear my voice, even if my ears are silent." The day finally arrived. The Ninth Symphony, Beethoven's greatest challenge, would be performed in Vienna. People crowded the concert hall, excited, nervous, curious. Could Beethoven really create something so powerful while deaf? Beethoven himself stood nervously on stage. He could hear nothing, feel nothing but the pounding of his heart. The orchestra began to play. Beethoven stood silently, watching, imagining, feeling every vibration deep within him. Music filled the hall, powerful, perfect. Every person felt something incredible, something magical. Then, the choir began to sing, voices filled with beauty, passion, freedom, joy, beautiful spark of the gods. People listened, tears in their eyes. No one had ever heard music so powerful, so hopeful, so human. When the symphony finished, silence filled the hall. Beethoven stood quietly, unsure. Was it good? Did people feel what he felt? Suddenly, applause exploded around him, loud, endless, wild with excitement. People stood, shouted, cheered with joy. Yet Beethoven, facing the orchestra, heard nothing. He remained quiet, still, facing away. Finally, someone gently turned him toward the audience. His eyes widened, amazed, emotional. He saw hundreds of faces, smiling, crying, applauding wildly. Tears filled his eyes. In that moment, Beethoven realized clearly, music had won. It conquered silence, tragedy, pain. It brought people joy, hope, courage. He smiled softly, bowing gently. Deafness had not defeated him. Music was stronger, more powerful than fate itself. Walking slowly into the night, Beethoven felt peace. He whispered softly to himself, "Silence tried to defeat me. Darkness tried to break me. But music, my music, was stronger." He looked up, smiling gently at the stars. For the first time in many years, Beethoven felt free. His symphony of defiance was complete. But in his heart, one question still remained. Would the world truly remember his victory against silence? Only time would tell. Chapter 7. Immortal Beloved. In a small, hidden drawer, carefully folded, lay a letter. A letter filled with secret passion, aching words, longing that could never be spoken aloud. Beethoven sat quietly, alone in his room, candle flickering gently, shadows dancing slowly across the walls. His eyes stared softly at the letter, his heart heavy with sadness, pain, and unanswered questions. Who was she? The mysterious woman, the one he called his immortal beloved. No one knew. Her name was never written clearly. But in the letter, Beethoven poured out his heart, writing words he could never say aloud. My angel, my everything, my immortal beloved, my heart is full of you. Can you love me as I love you? Forever yours, forever mine. Beethoven's heart beat faster, tears filling his eyes. He felt a deep, painful loneliness, fame, music, success. None of these could ease his sadness, his longing for someone who remained just beyond reach. Love, true love, seemed impossible. His deafness made him feel different, alone, disconnected. People admired him, respected him, but who could truly love him? Who would accept his silence, his loneliness, his fierce, stormy heart? He closed his eyes, remembering the first moment he saw her, his beloved. Her gentle eyes, her warm smile, a smile that made him forget, even for a moment, his pain. But she belonged to another world, another life, beyond Beethoven's reach. So, quietly, secretly, Beethoven kept his love hidden, writing words only his heart would ever truly understand. He wondered quietly to himself, will I always be alone? Can music, fame, even success ever fill the emptiness inside me? Yet, as Beethoven sat alone in the quiet darkness of his room, something else began to stir within him. A gentle voice, whispering softly, deep inside his heart. Maybe love is not about having, not about keeping. Maybe love is about feeling deeply, giving completely, even when nothing returns. Slowly, Beethoven stood, walking gently toward the piano. He felt the keys carefully, silently. His fingers trembled softly. He imagined her face, her smile, the warmth he longed for, yet could never truly have. Music began flowing gently from his fingers, music filled with tenderness, sadness, longing. He played softly, notes floating like whispers in the darkness. In that quiet moment, Beethoven understood something powerful. His pain, his loneliness had become music, beautiful, unforgettable, eternal. This love, his secret love, though painful, gave him strength, courage, creativity. Days passed quietly. Beethoven continued composing, writing music filled with passion, hope, sadness, and love. He never sent the letter. Instead, it remained hidden, carefully protected, a secret, a mystery, forever unanswered. Years later, long after Beethoven's death, the letter would be found. People would read its words, feeling the deep love, the powerful sadness, asking softly, gently, who was Beethoven's immortal beloved? But in life, Beethoven remained silent. He carried the pain alone, hidden deep within his heart. Yet somehow, the love he felt became part of him, part of every note he wrote, every symphony he composed. One night, standing alone by his window, Beethoven stared quietly at the stars. He whispered softly to the darkness, "My beloved, whoever you are, wherever you are, you have made my life richer, deeper. Without you, without my longing, I would never have created music so beautiful, so honest." Beethoven smiled gently, tears softly filling his eyes. He realized clearly, love, even impossible love, was never wasted. It had made him who he was, a man who knew loneliness, yet created beauty, a man who faced silence, yet spoke through music. Slowly, Beethoven returned to the letter, touching it gently, lovingly. He whispered quietly, as if speaking directly to her, "You are my secret, my sadness, my strength. My music will carry our love forever. Even when my voice falls silent, you, my immortal beloved, will live forever in my music. Gently, he placed the letter back into the drawer, hidden again, safe from the world. Beethoven walked slowly back to the piano. His heart was lighter, yet still heavy with unanswered questions. But now, he understood clearly. Love, even secret love, had given him something precious, something powerful. Loneliness could hurt him. Silence could frighten him. But love could never be defeated. He touched the piano keys again, softly, tenderly. Music flowed, quietly filling the room with beauty, sadness, hope. In his heart, Beethoven knew clearly now, love, even painful, even impossible, was the strongest music of all. But one question lingered, softly, quietly, deep within his heart. Would anyone ever truly understand the secret love hidden within Beethoven's music? Only time would tell. Chapter 8. The Ninth Symphony, Triumph and Joy. At last, the moment had arrived. The great concert hall in Vienna was filled with excitement. Hundreds of people waited eagerly, whispering quietly, their hearts beating faster. Tonight, something special, something incredible, was about to happen. Ludwig van Beethoven, deaf, alone, yet unbroken, would present his greatest work. A symphony unlike any before it, filled with power, hope, and joy. The Ninth Symphony. In a small room backstage, Beethoven stood quietly, alone, lost in thought. He felt nervous, unsure. He could hear nothing. No voices, no laughter, no music. Yet, inside his heart, the music played clearly, perfectly. He had spent years fighting silence, battling loneliness. He had poured everything, his passion, his anger, his love, into this music. But would they understand? Could the audience feel what he felt? A gentle touch on his arm. Someone said quietly, "It's time, maestro." Beethoven walked slowly onto the stage, feeling hundreds of eyes, watching, waiting. He stood before the orchestra, silent, determined, strong. He could feel his heart beating, hard, fast. Raising his hands, Beethoven gave the signal. The music began. At first, quiet, gentle notes, rising softly, then louder, stronger, filling the hall with beauty, power, emotion. Beethoven stood conducting passionately, feeling each vibration through his feet, his body, his soul. He imagined clearly, the notes soaring high, reaching the heavens themselves. The audience sat stunned, amazed, hearts racing, eyes wide. This music, so powerful, so beautiful, spoke directly to their hearts. It was filled with Beethoven's struggles, his victories, his sadness, his joy. And then, something new, something extraordinary. Voices joined the orchestra, a choir, singing words of hope, joy, brotherhood. Beethoven's Ode to Joy. Joy, beautiful spark of the gods, all people become brothers. The voices, powerful, clear, rising together, lifting everyone's hearts, touching every soul. The audience felt tears, smiles, deep emotions, too strong for words. On stage, Beethoven conducted, his eyes closed tightly, feeling the music, imagining every note. But silence still surrounded him, deep and endless. Could they understand his message? Finally, the symphony reached its end, a powerful, joyful finish, notes rising, soaring, filling the air. Then, silence. Beethoven stood, breathing deeply, facing the orchestra, unaware, unsure. But behind him, something incredible, something unforgettable was happening. The audience, slowly, then quickly, stood, clapping, cheering wildly, tears of joy streaming down their faces. The hall erupted, filled with applause, cries of joy, celebration. Yet Beethoven heard nothing. He remained standing, quietly facing the orchestra, unaware of the cheering, the clapping, the victory. Then, gently, softly, a young singer stepped forward, touching Beethoven's shoulder carefully. He turned him slowly toward the audience. Beethoven saw clearly hundreds of faces, smiling, crying, cheering for him. His eyes filled suddenly with tears of joy. He felt something deep, something powerful, something he had waited for all his life. Acceptance, triumph, victory over silence. He had defeated fate. He bowed his head humbly, his heart full, tears running freely down his face. He felt love, gratitude, peace. Yet, quietly inside, Beethoven knew something even more powerful. His music, his symphony, had become a voice stronger than silence, stronger than pain. Walking slowly off stage, Beethoven felt lighter, free. Yet even now, something lingered deep within him. A question, soft, gentle, unanswered. Had he truly defeated fate? Or had fate, in a strange way, helped him create his greatest music? Outside, beneath a sky filled with stars, Beethoven stood quietly. He whispered softly to himself, "My silence, my loneliness, my pain, all became music. Tonight, my heart spoke louder, clearer than ever before." He smiled gently, peacefully, at the night sky. Back inside the hall, the audience remained standing, applauding, amazed, grateful. They had experienced something special, unforgettable. The Ninth Symphony, Beethoven's triumph, his victory over silence, loneliness, fate itself, had touched their hearts deeply. But Beethoven himself quietly walked home, his heart filled with peace, joy, sadness, and strength. Tonight, he had conquered silence, yet, deep inside, he knew clearly the battle was not finished. Silence remained, waiting patiently, testing him. Could Beethoven continue to fight, continue to create, despite silence? He smiled softly, confidently, walking beneath the stars. Yes, he could, and he would. Because tonight, Beethoven had shown clearly music. His music could never be silenced. Not by loneliness, not by pain, not even by fate. Tonight, music had triumphed, and Beethoven, deaf but defiant, had won. But would his victory last forever? Only music itself would answer. Chapter 9. The Last Echo. The room was quiet, so very quiet. A single candle burned softly, flickering gently, casting shadows on the walls. Beethoven lay still, his body tired, weak, fading slowly. Illness had taken hold, his strength almost gone. Yet even now, as Beethoven lay quietly, his spirit remained powerful, strong, undefeated. Music still whispered softly in his heart, gently, beautifully. Friends gathered quietly nearby, faces sad, hearts heavy. They watched him silently, wishing somehow they could ease his pain. But Beethoven himself lay peacefully, eyes closed, breathing softly. He felt the warmth, the kindness around him. Yet, inside, he heard only silence, endless silence. A gentle voice spoke softly. "Maestro, can you hear me?" Beethoven opened his eyes, smiling weakly, gently shaking his head. "No," he whispered softly, "but I can feel you." A tear ran gently down his cheek. Even now, after everything, Beethoven's silence remained, deep, complete. Yet in his heart, music still sang, louder, clearer, more beautiful than ever. He felt tired, so very tired, yet strangely, peacefully, unafraid. Beethoven understood clearly. His fight, his struggle, was coming to an end. The room around him slowly blurred, memories filling his mind, images from long ago, childhood, music, pain, loneliness, triumph. His life had been difficult, challenging, yet beautiful. He remembered clearly Vienna's crowded streets, applause filling concert halls, tears running softly down faces, his symphonies, powerful, defiant, beautiful. He smiled softly, gently whispering, "I fought, I struggled, I created, and now my music lives forever." His friends watched carefully, eyes filled with sadness, admiration, respect. One of them, a close friend, gently touched Beethoven's hand, saying softly, "Your music has changed the world. People everywhere will remember you forever." Beethoven smiled again softly, eyes closing slowly, peacefully. Outside, Vienna was quiet, the city mourning silently. News had spread quickly. Beethoven, the great composer, was fading away. Crowds gathered quietly, lighting candles, whispering gently his name. The world was losing a genius, yet somehow, Beethoven himself felt no sadness. He felt calm, free, at peace. Inside his heart, music still played softly, gently, beautifully. He whispered quietly to himself, words only his heart could hear clearly. Music was my life, my love, my voice. Silence tried to defeat me, loneliness tried to break me. But music has won. His breathing slowed, gently, quietly. He felt himself drifting, softly, away from pain, loneliness, silence itself. "Maestro," another voice said softly, full of love and sadness. Beethoven opened his eyes again briefly, smiling gently. He saw faces, blurred, yet filled with love. He whispered softly, clearly, bravely. Do not cry, my friends. My fight is over. My music lives forever. Remember me through my melodies, my notes, my symphonies. Slowly, his eyes closed again, breathing softly, gently fading away. The room became quiet, peaceful. Beethoven's face was calm, serene, gently smiling. His friends stood silently, hearts heavy, tears softly falling. They whispered quietly to each other, "He's gone, but his music, his spirit, will never die." Outside, Vienna's streets filled slowly, silently, with people mourning. Bells rang softly, sadly. The world had lost Beethoven, yet strangely, somehow, his music seemed louder, stronger than ever before. In concert halls, homes, streets, Beethoven's symphonies played again, notes soaring high, powerful, eternal. And quietly, softly, people began to understand. Beethoven had faced silence, loneliness, illness, yet nothing had truly defeated him. His music, his voice, was stronger than death itself. Weeks passed, then months. Beethoven's grave became a place of quiet respect, admiration. People visited softly, gently leaving flowers, candles, tears, yet in the hearts of millions. Beethoven lived on clearly, powerfully, eternally. And so, Beethoven, deaf, lonely, defiant, became something more powerful, something immortal. Death had tried to silence him, yet failed completely. His symphonies echoed endlessly, forever beautiful, forever defiant, forever powerful. Late one evening, beneath stars softly shining, a young child stood quietly near Beethoven's resting place. He listened carefully to music softly playing nearby, Beethoven's notes filling the night air. He asked softly, curiously, who was Beethoven? His father smiled gently, touching his son's shoulder lovingly. He was a man who faced silence, loneliness, pain, and still created music that lives forever. The boy listened carefully, smiling softly. He whispered quietly to himself, music, stronger than silence, stronger even than death. Beethoven lives forever. And softly, gently, beneath the stars, Beethoven's music continued, notes reaching toward heaven itself. Death had not silenced him. No, Beethoven had become eternal. His music, forever playing, forever alive, forever echoing. The last echo, beautiful, endless, eternal.